Hi there, Philippe. It's Andrew again. So I'll start by talking about the request for a band score. Now, only a qualified examiner can give a band score. This is because their decision is final, and our decision regarding your band would be a guess, essentially. Examiners in IELTS meet regularly, or at least the council does, the British Council, to discuss and to, I suppose, decide on what is the correct banding. So for us just to hand out band scores as non-examiners would be problematic, to say the least. But what I can do is go through with you the mark scheme. So these are the descriptors of the different bandings for the IELTS Task 2. They describe in some detail what each band looks like. So obviously this is a superficial grading because it only describes the appearance of the writing. So if you're looking for a 7, what I would actually recommend is aiming for the 8 descriptions. I would read through these and simply aim to meet these in every area. So we respond to the question fully, we develop our response well, and our ideas are relevant and they are extended and supported. This is where the academic format comes in, that they are explained fully and backed up with evidence, and so they are not just opinion. This essentially means that your paragraphing and your flow is almost perfect. Here it's essentially perfect, but this means very few errors in paragraphing. There'd be a logical sequence of information. Here as well, not only are errors rare, but rare words, uncommon words are used. You're still allowed a few errors, but not many at all. What's more important is this bit here, that you use a wide range of vocabulary, fluently and flexibly, to convey precise meanings. Grammatical range and accuracy is really just about using a sufficient number of different structures with a minimum of errors, an absolute minimum of errors. If you can aim for this, even with the nerves of the exam, you will likely come out with a 7.5 or so. But this here should be our standard. This is what we are aiming for. So if you want to know how far away from your desired level you are, pay attention to your corrections. I will try to refer to this throughout, but it's really more about aiming for this. This is essentially what I'm aiming for as well. When I give you advice, when I give you suggestions, I'm trying to bring your writing up to this point so that it matches this description. So here is your task 1 once again. The bar chart illustrated here gives information that compares England and Scotland. Well, I'll tell you what, because England, the chart itself does not compare. A person may use the data available to make a comparison, but really what we should say is the bar chart illustrates, or the bar chart illustrated here gives information about the number of VW cars sold in England and Scotland between 1990 and 1998. Overall, England's VW sales were significantly higher when compared with those coming from Scotland. To begin with, during the given period, we don't need this. Given period and given time period mean the same thing, so this would be lost for brevity. The number of car sales between the two countries fluctuated. I would say, but England's sales remained higher than those of Scotland. England's sales remained higher than those of Scotland. Because we don't want to talk about their ability. This is about a measure of what happened, and we want to be objective. So England was able is not quite right. We want to talk about what they did, what they achieved, or what happened, not necessarily what they can or cannot do. In addition, England had the most success during the years 1990, 97 and 1998, as the figures were close to 300,000. In contrast, Scotland's highest earning years came from 1990 and 1994. From, not form. Spelling errors will cost you. Which had a respectable average of a little over, because this is all about means nearly or around, but a little over kind of means the same thing, but just in a positive. So we don't need both. Had a respectable average of a little over 180,000 would be really good, but remained lower. Still, in this sense, I wouldn't use in academic writing. It still did this. I would say it continued to. It remained. That sort of stuff. But remained lower than sales in England, or overall sales in England, but remained lower than overall sales in England. Lastly, according to the data gathered, both England and Scotland had the least number of car sales during '96, with England only managing to earn close to 240,000 in car sales. So, if you were to say that England was earning 240,000, then I need a currency. Is this pounds? Dollars? Yuan? I don't know which it is. If it's number of cars sold, if it's 240,000 cars, then we need to be specific and tell us that. So we're still using this. So we're talking about the lowest point, the lowest earnings. England only managing to earn close to 240,000 somethings, whereas Scotland sold significantly fewer cars with only 180,000 somethings. I'm still not sure what we're talking about here. Is it money? Is it cars? Is it beans? Clear that up. Let's move on to your next one. So, next task. I'm quite excited by this because you've used this phrase, the physical manipulation of electricity. Personally, I am very into electronics. I construct many electronics projects, and it is all about the physical manipulation of electrons and charge. So let's have a look at what you wrote. Innovative procedures such as the physical manipulation of electricity and the discovery of fire by ancient human beings has greatly affected the lives of people all around the world since the early days of humanity that one cannot imagine living life without them. I thought I'd just point out to you just how long that sentence is. To read, I mean, and how difficult it is to digest as a result. If we improve this by splitting it into 2 sentences separated by a semicolon, this would be much easier for people to take into their tiny little brains. So, innovations such as, or let's say, fundamental innovations such as electricity and fire. And we shouldn't say ancient human beings, really, because electricity was not ancient. The discovery that we could manipulate electricity came much, much later than that. So we could say innovations such as electricity and fire, fundamental innovations such as electricity and fire, have affected human beings for so long and to such a great extent that many cannot imagine life without them. Personally, I believe that in the modern age, one simply cannot exist without these necessities. Okay, so I need to clear up that to exist, to be, is literally a matter of life and death. So what you've said here is that without fire and electricity, one would die. And I don't think that's true, even though it would be a great struggle and it would be entirely uncomfortable. I don't think I would die without fire or electricity. I might eventually, but they are modern necessities. You can say this. Personally, I entirely agree that in the modern day and age, utilities such as these, or even tools, we could say, electricity and fire are both tools, so we could say that personally, I agree that in this day and age, tools such as these are necessary. We can say that. To begin with, people nowadays are heavily dependent on mechanical inventions powered by electricity or other fuels. Electricity is used to power homes, appliances, and personal effects such as cell phones and tablets, whereas fuels are used in public transport, power plants, and various other means. No repetition. And also, this is very ambiguous. Just other means. We could just say public transport, power generation, and what other things do we use fuel in? Oh, I know. Various industrial applications. So we can say, then we can use the word various, and I think it's important to state that it's industrial applications, because electricity is definitely used for things like cell phones and tablets, but it's really more about batteries here. But that is just a way of storing electricity, so it's fine. But what we haven't done here is explained why this is essential. If you want to say, what you've done is given me a list of things that fuel and electricity and fire are used for, but then I need some explanation as to why this is relevant to the topic. I'm sure that you may go into it down here, but if you want to just talk about the applications of fire, electricity and fuel and how they are essential, then that whole point should be covered in here. And then what you could do is cover what would happen, hypothetically speaking, without those things. And then you could conclude that it is essential fully, because you've been like, this is everything that it's used for, and, you know, get people to really accept that in their daily lives, that's what they do, that they do rely on. So get them to see all the things they use it for, and that it is essential, and they do rely heavily on it, with some explanation. Then you could do a hypothetical paragraph. Hypothetical is an imagined scenario. Imagine this, whereby you say, whereby you imagine a world in which these are taken away, or even imagine a person's life in which these are taken away. So then we would need an example to support that. It would have to be a specific example. So we could say, imagine the life of a disadvantaged child in the world today who lives without these luxuries. So let's refer to a real person, someone who does exist today, who currently lives without these luxuries, and then we can sort of draw conclusions about what a way of life like this is like. Because now, I think this is a problem stemming from here. You've said that people can't exist without these necessities, and so now you can't refer to the people that do exist without these necessities, which is many people. Remember that if you're sat using a computer and you have some money in your pocket, you are one of a very small number of people in the world who is fine. Most people are not fine. So let's just read this one anyway. In addition, inventions such as these have served humanity for, I would say, thousands of years. Because a millennia is 1,000 years, usually. So to talk about thousands of years is a little bit confusing. That essentially means millions of years. And while fire has served humanity for some time, it's actually not millions of years. It's about 200,000 years. Maybe, people think. So this is an incorrect time frame. So what you want to say here is about how it's become embedded into the daily lives of people. I would talk about how people have adopted it fully. People have embraced it entirely into their daily lives. And if this was removed, it could have serious detrimental effects on the way that people live. Because you can't just change the conditions of someone's life and expect them to be okay. For instance, imagine a world without the power of electricity. Almost every aspect of our way of life would be affected. Social services would be cancelled. How is that directly related to electricity? Social services are provisions of care. So care is not powered by electricity. So social services, as much as the social workers would have to get around in ways that they hadn't previously, you can still care on a bike. And public transportation would be at a standstill. Basically, I wouldn't say this either. This is not a very academic, cohesive device. I would say, therefore, the loss of modern power solutions could result in the loss of society as we know it. I don't think it would send us back to the Stone Age or to a kind of Stone Age, and I don't think this is precise enough. I would go, if you want to talk about this, you could say that without electricity and mobile phones and cookers and all the rest of it and fire, humans would have to resort to using old-fashioned tools made of carved metal, wood and stone. So we wouldn't return to a particular age of material. We would probably look back and incorporate all of the fundamental materials into our new way of life. In conclusion, I believe that developments and discoveries that have proven beneficial to us as a society are extremely vital. I would say vital alone, because extremely vital is a little bit strong, because something is either vital or it is not. Something can't be very vital or a little bit vital. It either has to be vital or not vital. It's essential or not. It's vital to the survival of our species, and in the event that it is taken away from us, it could result in dire consequences. I agree that I've always loved the phrase dire consequences, but I'm a bit of a goth, so I enjoy dark phrasings. But nice one, Philippe. Let's have a quick look back at the mark scheme. I think you have minor points in each category to tackle. I think right now you're more likely up here. I think if you apply the corrections in this video, you will end up somewhere around here, and maybe with a couple more corrections you could end up closer to up here. But right now we need to make sure, first of all, this one, actually, you're kind of there. You are kind of there. Just a little bit more improvement and you'll get this one. You do present a clear position, and you do tend to address all parts of the task. Some of these are a little bit problematic, and you may find that you score down here. This is actually not bad, but I think you use sentences that are a little too long and a little too full of unnecessary words. You have a tendency to try to use as many words as you can, whereas it's better to think of full and complete ideas and then represent them as best you can in writing. Here is where I think you will struggle the most. I think the best solution I can give you for this is to read a lot of academic material and to listen to podcasts like Radiolab. Radiolab.org is an American science and technology podcast. Necessarily, it is quite academic in nature, even though the language used is quite friendly and nice. So listening and reading helps your brain to notice grammar patterns. Your brain has a natural ability to take on board information about grammar. You don't really have to study it that hard. It just kind of happens if you expose yourself to it enough. So have a good read and a really good listen to some podcasts and some academic articles and see if you can notice some things there. But until next time, pal, have a nice evening. Speak soon.